What's up, everybody? It's Mark from 403 Fauna, along with.
Jason Radass Designs.
I really want to thank you guys for catching our first two lives. The numbers completely blow my mind, and I hope we can continue this success. Today, we'll be talking about, is Justin in the driver's seat of the ball python industry? Let me bring the presentation up.
I think you froze for a second there.
Did I freeze? Are we good?
We're good now.
Okay, well, let me get to the presentation. At some point, we're going to be all professional with this, but we're still working kinks out. So I hope you stick around and stay with us for that. Okay, so today we'll be talking about Justin's video from last week on the top 5 projects of Kinova. And I really found it interesting because there was some surprises in there that I wasn't aware of. And of course, there was the usual crazy stuff that Justin has. Have you had a chance to see that video yet, Jason?
Yeah, I watched that. I watched it a few times. It was pretty good.
Give me a moment here. Okay. So let's have our weekly check-in. How about you start us off, Jason? How'd you do this week with your ball pythons?
Um, I fed a lot more this last week, so that was good. Pretty much everyone was eating well. And let's see. I got a delivery from Adam, the Proper Royals. So, with Patreon funds that accrued, like credit, I finally got that snake in. And there was a lot of people in this last week that um, wanted to take advantage of the little window with Redline shipping or whoever they used to ship
Yeah.
to get things around the country. And so people were scrambling to ship and receive, and I got a snake from Adam. That was pretty cool. I've had my eye on it for a while, and he arrived. And then the snake that I sold in the auction that I mentioned in the last couple episodes, the bamboo female, she made it to Oklahoma safe and sound.
Very nice. The places I'm shipping to are in Colorado and Idaho, which are just way too cold to ship. So we're still
Mm,
waiting for that window. Well,
yeah,
with all the, have you had a lot of rain where you're at this week?
a little bit, a
Few
little
days?
bit. Yeah, I mean, above us in California, they're getting a little bit more, I think. But
Yeah,
yeah, I know that you got some, and
yeah,
then I
crazy.
work up in the mountains, and we got snow yesterday while I was at work, so that was fun.
Yeah, down here in San Diego, we've had like record floods going on, and fortunately, I do live on a hill, so I don't have to worry about that. But I know one of our biggest pet stores down in here, Pet Kingdom, they completely flooded and had to close down for a couple of days.
Hmm.
But with all this rain, I've been taking advantage of it with my pairings, and I'm going to be coming out with a video on Saturday or Sunday, which will share some of that. But I've got some young males that are doing the job, but unfortunately, the one that I really want to do the job, the pastel blade lace clown, he still hasn't figured it out. Hopefully, when I get home, he'll be locked up. But that guy's supposed to be the workhorse for my season. And I'm hoping he gets it together. But yeah, I'm knee deep in the breeding season finally, which I'm really happy about.
Yeah, he's a really pretty snake. I remember when you got him, I was like, oh my gosh, like some examples of lace in ball pythons. The lace gene is they're really pretty. Um, the more you combine it with stuff, the more dramatic it can get. It's like you see it more and it enhances the snakes. And I know that there was this one a few months ago. It was a pastel lace HRA, and that snake was so cool looking. It almost looked like a puzzle with this like zigzaggy patterns. It was wild, and he wasn't super expensive. It just wasn't the timing for me. But yours is really pretty, and he's just a late bloomer. It's fine. Like he'll get there.
Yeah, it's hopefully I've I'm going to bust out one of my older males that really did a lot of work for me last season and get him started with the girls I want him to, because he's Krypton. And at least I will have either Cryptic or Clown in those going in case the blade or the lace doesn't go. So I got to bust out my backup male until he figures it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I did a lot of pairings October, November, December. Um so the males that I'm using are pretty much taking a break right now. Um and that's fine, but they do pick up on like barometric pressure changes and the weather. It's cooler and the rain, and it's definitely helpful to pair them at those times. But right
Are
now I'm kind of taking a break.
are those males that you started early? Are they still eating?
Yeah, everybody's eating now. I had my pastel monarchy shed last night, so I'm gonna give him a bath and look him over and get him really pumped up because he had like 4 or 5 girlfriends in the last 6 months, on and off here and there, and he needed a break. So yeah, I'll get him pumped up.
Okay, now last week we had our problem of the week, and Hi Viz Pythons. I don't know if she's in the chat yet, but she was the winner of the first problem of the week, and I'm giving her a shout out. We are going to do another problem of the week, and if you get first one to get the answer correct, we'll get a shout out for next week's show. But Jen from Hi Viz, she was already on Snakes and the Fat Man, so good job with that, Hi Viz. There's her Instagram. You can see there, hi_viz_pythons. I'll also link both of those, her interview with Snakes and the Fat Man and her Instagram once this show is over. Jen's a friend of yours, right?
Yeah, she's a very lively person. She's in the Patreon that I'm in, and she's just a fun character. Her other half, Owen, is a really fun guy too. So we've hung out in like a video chat with the rest of the Patreon, and when everybody kind of filtered off, went to bed, had to go, whatnot, like we all just like hung out longer. And they're really fun and funny, and we had a good time getting to know each other, and she's been mixing it up. She's like a social butterfly out there, Instagram and YouTube, and she's doing good. And she jumped all over that problem of the week like a spider monkey. I was
Even,
like, what?
yeah, even before I could end it, I think she had the answer for that.
Yeah, I mean, I knew what the answer was, so there's plenty of people that do, but it was a good problem, and she was all over it.
Well, I'd like to announce that I do a giveaway every Christmas, and I've done it for the past 2 Christmases. Painted Lady Balls won a Pastel Highway female for me for the first Christmas, and then another lady won a Hidden Gene Woma Yellow Belly het for either Cryptic Clown and 50% possible het Ultramel, along with a shed test for that from Charlie at Grey Riders Reptiles. Well, instead of just doing a random giveaway like I've been doing, what I'm going to do is, for those that have guessed correctly on our problems of the week, no matter how many we have throughout the year leading up to Christmas, they will be the ones eligible for that free snake. Now,
Nice.
Jason, unfortunately, as my partner, you're not eligible for that, but
Yeah, that's okay.
we'll give our audience and I don't know which baby I'll give away. It's going to be something I produce in 2024, and I guarantee you it's going to be a hot little baby. So try your best at guessing our problem of the week, which, since we're talking about Justin this week, it's going to be a question related to Justin. So let me pull that up. So audience, get ready. Here is the question of the week. Charlie, you're eligible. Shoot, I'll give you whatever you want. Okay, problem of the week. Let me read it. Justin credits this person as his biggest help in getting started in the industry. A, Ralph Davis, the king. B, his uncle. C, the legend Brian Barczyk. Or D, his college biology professor. So audience, take take your best guess here. First one that gets the correct answer will get a shout out next week and be eligible for the snake giveaway at the end of the year. Okay, Charlie won it. It was his uncle. So, do you know that story, Jason?
Yeah, we hadn't gone over this one yet, but I do know that he had an investor in his family. I knew that it was his uncle. He had mentioned it, and we don't all have that, but it's nice when somebody believes in you and invests in you, and think about what it would have been way back then for somebody to trust you with $30,000. Oh yeah, I'm gonna buy some snakes. I'm gonna buy some lizards. But I think that it's a pretty cool story in that look what he's done with that. I would say it was a pretty wise investment by his uncle.
Yeah. And you've been around for a while. You know who Ralph Davis is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was. I remember I was following back then, and he had people crazy. People were tattooing his logo on themselves, and he was just like the man way
Were
back
they
then.
really? I didn't see any of that. I mean, he was sort of like, well, not sort of, like he was one of the big names back in the day, like
Yeah.
decades ago. He was essentially like the Justin, um, maybe a little less approachable, a little less professional, but the things that he has contributed to the hobby and especially to ball pythons over the years has been useful and helpful in propelling everything, to where it is now. Like everything is knowledge gained over the years and experiences shared, and um, everybody, pretty much everybody that was in the hobby, at least like let's say 5 to 10 years ago, know who Ralph Davis is.
And for anyone who hasn't seen the interview, I believe the first Snakes and the Fat Man interview he did was with Ralph Davis, and
Hmm.
that's a must to listen to. So if you get the chance, check that out. It'll tell you why he left the industry, and I think he does still have a few snakes left. But this guy,
Hmm.
yeah, he was a legend, and like you said, he was a little rough around the edges, but I think that's what attracted a lot of people to him.
A little bit. I mean, I read a lot of his like his published stuff and his online information, breeding histories and things. Yeah, he definitely was a loud personality. And as far as I've last heard, he does still own ball pythons and does have more unique lines of different genes and different things that no one's ever seen that supposedly he's going to keep working with and release at some point, but I haven't I haven't seen him poke his head behind, out to hang out with the public and social media. So we'll just see if he shows up.
Do you remember his writing style on his vlogs? He would
It,
like
it
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
He would like write a few words and dot 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 dot, write a few words dot 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 dot, and it
Hmm.
was a little difficult to read, but there was a lot of good information he put out there.
Yeah, yeah. I also have kind of a different type of texting style with like abbreviations and lots of dots. I remember one time I arranged to get this rosy boa. It was this really important and very expensive rosy boa way back in the day. And I drove all the way out near to where you are in San Diego. I had never been to San Diego before. And I drove from Northern California to this guy's house. And our communications online, it was, he was like, I don't completely understand you. What are you saying? You type weird. I don't know. It's just me. It's just my style. It's different. It's not for everybody, and that's okay.
Okay, we're gonna move on to a little game here. A word association.
Hmm.
Oh, actually, before that, I'm sorry. It's the rat ass snake of the week. Do you have your snake ready?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Guess the genes, huh? All right. Hold on one sec.
Okay, so we're gonna take a look at our new segment here, Badass Snake of the Week, where Jason will be sharing his snake with us. Billy, thank you for coming. It's a huge honor to have you on here. Really appreciate it.
All right.
Let me see if I can figure out how to put you as the main guy here. Okay, so, audience, what do you think? What do we got here? Banana? Now, Jason hasn't told me what this snake is yet, so.
I'm grateful that she's being pretty reasonable right now. I just soaked her a little bit, and she is feisty.
Okay, I'm thinking there's Mojave in there, right?
Essentially, really close.
One of those bell complexes, and it's either gonna be banana or, well, I know you don't have ultramel, right? So
I have one ultramel, but it's just that one girl. I haven't paired anything that's ultramel or het ultramel. But yeah, there is banana.
Charlie says banana lesser. Billy says banana Mojave fire. Go ahead and tell us what that is.
Pretty close. Banana mystic, and I think that's it. I don't think there's fire.
Banana mystic, okay.
Banana mystic, 66% het monsoon.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me get a closer look at that pattern. Billy, what do you think? You're the monsoon king here.
Right, Billy? What
do we got some donuts on the top? Who's the breeder you got it from?
I got it from a friend of mine, John, at Elite Exotics in Fresno, California. And he has created multiple monsoons. She had a monsoon sibling, and I got her sister as well, who, same thing, 66% het. And she's just a calico. So he had another sister that was calico mystic and maybe something else like pastel or something. But the pattern was kind of like how you'll see a black magic. A lot of times will just, certain gene combinations, they just scramble stuff up on the side. And I wanted to have a more clear cut look at patterning. So I passed on her and then took these two, and he let me make payments, and then brought them to me at the Pomona show last summer, and I had paid them off, and we hung out at the show. And one thing I didn't mention about the Pomona show recently, we talked about our experiences, was going to the auction afterwards. So I'm not so sure I would have gone to the last couple, but him and his family, super nice family. I consider them family friends now. They like to go to the auction, bid on stuff, donate stuff to the auction, and just have the food and mingle with people. And so I stick the whole day out with them, no matter what time I have to get up at work and and be at work in the morning after a commute. So that was pretty cool. And yeah, he's created a few monsoons. I think he sold one to somebody in California, in SoCal, and sold one somewhere else. And he has at least one that he's been holding back. And with that type of gene, it's pretty valuable and expensive, and it's tough to trust everyone that they're going to give you an actual possible het, and then to get 100% het examples, it's just out of a lot of people's reasonable price range. So, just like you spent good money on your male, and that's a smart way to do it. Um, I went the 66% route. Both my males and both my females were 66%. So just roll with it. Take a shot.
Well,
But she's like in a late stage of shed, and so normally she's like super orange, like it's crazy. You would think that she has like fire or something in her. Um, and I guess that's just something that happens with Mystic and Mojave a lot of times when you mix it with banana, it just brings out a lot of oranges. You made an ultra male Mojave, right?
yes, I did.
And it's a little bit
Here.
orange.
Yeah,
So
and that's why I guessed Ultramel Mojave on that one. It kind of looked like the one that I had shot.
yeah, I just have the one ultra male. I'm Team Monarch, but I have that one girl. She's pretty cool, and it does really neat things. But yeah, like this is the calmest she has been the whole time
You're
I've
doing
owned
great.
her. Like you open up those tubs, Mark, and it's just like, brah, it's like crazy. And like her sister, especially, forget about it. Like you have to handle them accordingly. And sometimes I try to calm them down with my experience and just like work with them, and other times I just leave them alone and let them keep eating. She's being really chill right now, and I know that she's gonna like calm down eventually, like all the way. And that's one of the things, like with the puzzle gene and with some other random lesser known genes, and with monsoons and het monsoons, they tend to be a little bit feisty.
Yeah, mine are
So
definitely crazy. Well, go
yeah.
ahead and put her away right now, and I'll start introducing the next segment.
Awesome.
But
I'll be right back.
so him bringing out that hit monsoon is perfect for our show today because if you haven't seen Justin's top 5 Kinova projects, I was surprised Monsoon was number 1, spoiler, but really excited about that. Now, before we get to that, a quick segment on word association. So Jason, just give me one word, one morpher project that comes to mind when I bring these breeders' names up.
Okay.
Justin,
Piebald.
piebald. Okay. I would have said clown, but he does have a lot of pied as well. Number 2, Billy, the man in our chat right now.
Monsoon.
Yeah, definitely Monsoon and Freeway when I hear Billy's name. Number 3, Miguel, AEP.
Ooh. Sunset.
Sunset. You know what? That's what came to mind when I thought of Miguel. You know, even though people like Brad Boa and are running with it, and of course Leviathan as well. But Miguel, he's kind of like the guy. If there was a 10 slice pie, he has every finger in each slice because he does a lot.
He likes pie. He was at the Pomona show, and I got to chat with him uh once for a good amount of time and get his attention and talk over some stuff. And he only lives like an hour from me, and he's notoriously challenging to get a hold of, and he's like a super busy guy. He does have his fingers in all sorts of projects and all sorts of things in general. And he's just a hustler and a go-getter and an active person. Some people are just more active. And he gave me his phone number and agreed that I could take him out to lunch sometime. So I'll have all sorts of questions for him, drive him crazy, and get to know him better. He's quite the character, and he has built an amazing assortment of ball pythons and other snakes. He has other stuff too.
I hope you like to drink.
No, I don't. That's when I was leaving the bar just to hang out with people after the show. Like a lot of people are hanging out at the bars. And he said he was going to be there. I didn't see him, and I'm mingling and chatting with people and getting to know people and making friends. as I leave to go home, it was a long day for me. There he is coming in. He's like, "Hey, we're going into the bar now." Like, I was like, "Oh man, it's kind of a lost opportunity," because I really wanted to hang out with him more and get to know him. And I had to go home at some point. Some people make the shows a whole weekend adventure, maybe plus a Friday, right? Traveling and stuff. I just do it one day, and that was the end of my day, 11 p.m. commute home.
Okay, quick question from Jason of Genomic Labs.
Hmm.
What part of California are you from?
I'm in the high desert. It's where my beautiful fiance lived before I met her, and I moved from the redwoods to the high desert. And I was born in LA originally, so it's kind of like in my blood. And there's times where I've lived in Los Angeles County or the outskirts of it. But you get used to it. Every place has its own beauties, and the desert can be really cool. Like we're not super far away from Joshua Tree National Forest, and that's a really awesome place. And in the high desert, what's the elevation here, honey? Oh, she can't hear me. I think it's like around 3,000 feet. Like we don't really get smog, so the Santa Ana winds come through and just kind of keep everything off to the side. So there's far less smog than if you just drive down the hill, as they call it, and go down to anywhere in San Bernardino or Los Angeles County. Like immediately you can see the layers of smog as you enter them. So I kind of avoid a bit of that, and I like that.
Cool. Okay, let's move on to the next breeder.
Yeah.
We have Will from Royal Canadian Reptiles. What do you think of when you hear Will?
When I think puzzle. He has a couple of things that I really like from the videos and the interviews that I've seen him on. So there's other stuff that he has that is just amazing. Like he got into projects when, I was getting out of the hobby, stuff that I didn't even have then or know about. And um, when you stick with something for years and years and years, and you try different stuff and selective breeding, you come up with cool stuff. And he has held back a lot of things, and he has some really amazing ball pythons and gene combos, and he got in on puzzle early on, and so he uh, enjoys that gene and working with that and taking that new places. I don't have any puzzle or any head puzzles. They also are known to be a bit feisty, and it's just you can't have everything, like unless you're Justin or Billy, you have to be smart about it. And even they would tell you that if you really want to make a name for yourself, make a mark, have fun with doing some really cool things, you got to narrow down your vision and give yourself opportunity to be successful with just two or three projects.
Yeah, I definitely Puzzle came to mind. He was the one who really got me into Desert Ghost as well. Okay, speaking of the next one, Billy kind of beat me to the punch here. The next Ozzy, that's a tough one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. I don't know, like fruits come to mind. I don't know, like pears, pomegranates. I'm not sure. I forget.
Yeah, we all know what it is. Let's move on. Let's move on to the next one here. This one's tough. Levance from Straight Fire Reptiles. Are
Yeah,
you
I would
familiar with them?
I would say Desert Ghost. Like when he posts stuff every now and then, I'll catch it or I'll see it like on an Instagram live, and he'll talk about something or show something. Like he's got amazing Desert Ghost stuff. And and he is just also a cool fellow, man. Like I would see him in lives with like KG Bomb Projects and other people, and I'm like, who's this big guy? he's like, I bet he can barbecue. Like who is he? And then I finally figured it out. And they're like, oh, that's Levance. And I'm like, oh, so this is the guy that everyone respects so much and likes so much on the West Coast. Like he is funny and it's like he's just dropping knowledge. It's like hanging out with Billy in one of his, podcasts. It's just like constant knowledge. Boom, 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 boom. Here's good advice. Here's good thoughts. And he just breaks it down like he's super cool. Yeah,
Definitely.
look
Uh,
forward to meeting him one day.
I was curious to hear what you said with that because he likes to keep things really close to the vest and not reveal his projects. But I think what Billy said, DG Stranger Clown, pretty much
Hmm.
everything, whatever you thought you created, he's already created, right? He's got
Yeah,
like,
and that means he probably has 5 other projects that we all don't know about. That's staying ahead of the curve, He has a good eye for genes and good-looking snakes and good-looking specimens and man, that it would probably just blow our minds if we hung out and got to look in the tubs at his place. Like,
okay,
yeah.
all these names here, 1 through 6, these are all people. All you got to hear is their first name, and you know who they are if you're involved with the ball python industry.
Hmm.
And they're all great breeders. This isn't a tier list or anything. I just wanted to get a lively discussion going. Now, this last one here, just for fun, no offense to anyone here. What do you think?
Bamboo.
Bobby the Babu, right?
Yeah, yeah, he's I've chatted with Chris on a couple occasions and let him know what I thought about his content, which I enjoy and I have enjoyed. He took a break for most of last year and just came out with some new videos in recent months and I just is he the most knowledgeable and experienced of reptile keepers in my time in the hobby? Like, no, but he is a warm personality. I find him to be a bit funny and uh, genuine. He knows what he knows and he does what he does and he works with what he works with. And I just really like him. He entertained me during a time frame where I was starting to get back in the hobby and you know t- like despite what anyone might think of him, like like pushed out a ton of content, a ton of videos, and tried to do his best to help people. And Natalie has watched a lot of his videos too, and she gets a kick out of them. And yeah, I really like him, and I hope that as he thins down his collection, that he sticks around and continues to make more videos for people.
Okay. Hey, let's get into the meat of our video now. Let's analyze Justin's top 5.
What was this? Just vegetables? We're going into the meat now.
That was the appetizer. It's time for the main course
All
here.
right, sounds
Okay,
good.
so I hope everyone had a chance to see Justin's top 5 ball python projects for 2024. An alternative question here: is Justin in the driver's seat for the ball python industry? Now, there are, for me personally, there's 3 people in the industry who do it all, who put out YouTube content regularly, and who have amazing projects. And they were the first 3 from that list that I put: Justin, Billy, and AEP. And those other people, Will, Levance, they're big in the industry themselves, but they don't really do a lot of YouTube content like those top 3 do. So I
Yeah.
think he's in the driver's seat because he does put out a lot of videos and shares a lot of exciting projects, whereas other breeders might kind of hide things because they don't want other people to get ahead of them.
Mhm.
Any thoughts before we get to this tier list?
Well, if we're talking about like a silver Porsche, then he would definitely be in the driver's seat. Because I know he has one of those. I've seen images and video of his garage. I was like, wait, he doesn't just have that car. He has that car and that car. But he's worked really hard for what he's got, and I think You could go ahead and say that he's in the driver's seat in the sense that the content that he makes and puts out on social media and in this industry is like super polished, and it comes from really caring about this in particular breed of snakes and just sticking it out year after year after year. Going to the show so long ago, 20 plus years ago, and I hear these stories of him with a backpack and just going around and asking questions, and just taking everything in like a sponge, and just added to that repertoire year after year after year, and that's why we have so many amazing combinations and aspirations to make such wildly different looking snakes within Python Regis. That's because of him, at the foremost, by sticking through stuff and being like a mad scientist with all these different chemicals and tubes and beakers, and just being like, okay, I'm gonna mix this and mix that. Oh, explosion. Oh crap. And like, oh, there's fumes. Oh, and then like he comes up with the perfect thing. And that's what you got to do. You just got to mix and match, trial and error, learn from your mistakes, share knowledge when you can, and help everybody progress forward. So in that sense, yeah, he's in the driver's seat.
Thanks for joining us, Billy. Okay, so Natalie had a question here. What happened to the super chat? I'm not sure. I know that they sent me the code to get monetized and stuff like that, but I think I still need to do like my tax stuff. So don't worry about that right now. I super appreciate it though. Okay, let's get to number 5 here. So Billy's top 5. Number 1 is Puzzle, or I'm sorry, number 5. Now this kind of surprised me because Justin, of course, is known for his clown, and I've heard a lot of people say, and Puzzle is a new clown. I've even used that as one of the titles for my videos, but really interesting that he chose Puzzle at that. Hey, do you want to share with us real quick who you contacted about Puzzle while you were doing your research?
Well, yeah, like unlike you, and you live near Randy. Randy is fortunate enough and smart enough to have gotten in the puzzle project a while back, and he has cool stuff, and we've seen his stuff. I don't have any puzzles. I don't have any puzzle pieces. I don't have a box that says 750 pieces. Like I don't even have heads or nothing. I've been interested. I just went the path that I've gone so far, and it does some really neat things. So I thought, well, how can I say anything on puzzle? And I don't really have any. So I contacted Sean Bradley, who is the originator of the gene, and I had a nice conversation with him, and he said that he would give me the whole breakdown. I mean, I know some of the history of it, and I know some of its like traits and some of the things that it's done. Well, people have worked with it since he's gotten out of it. But he said he would give us a whole breakdown if we like in the future. He would come on as a guest and um, give us his takes and experiences with the gene that he helped make available, because it wouldn't be around if it wasn't for Sean.
Most definitely. It would, that's in the works, guys. Hopefully we'll have Sean Bradley on our show one day. You know what? Jason is such a perfect partner here because I do the presentations. He does things like gets Sean Bradley on tap for us to have here someday. But, we're still learning this live thing, and I really appreciate having Jason with us. Okay, let's take a look at what Justin said about Puzzle. With more people working on it, it's starting to come into its own. Yeah, within the past 5 years, I would say Puzzle has gotten really popular. I know one of the detriments before was because of its aggressiveness, and how are we going to get these morphs into the layperson's hands if it's going to be biting at them all the time? Now, me personally, I do work with a lot of Puzzle, and as far as their bitiness, I don't have that issue, but they are a little spastic, kind of. But there's definitely a behavioral thing with them. Although other breeders like Will from RCR, he's saying that throughout time his puzzles have gotten more calm. So I don't really think that's a detriment with the puzzle morph anymore.
Well, it's something that you can have be increased from, like, say, excessive line breeding, inbreeding, things like that. Like, all these different color and pattern mutations hold within their DNA other little tricky traits, and you can enhance them by continuing to breed for that. And you can also conversely uh, make a breed that is taken out of the wild, some random reptile, anything. You could, let's just say, goannas, like monitor lizards. You can bring them into captivity when they're known to be especially feisty in the wild to survive, and then just captive breed them, captive breed them, captive breed them, and they calm down if you do a good job interacting with them and raising them and caring for them and selecting ones to later breed that are calmer. So that's probably something that we'll see with further continued work with the puzzle gene. I would hope.
So some of the incomplete dominance he's putting into his puzzles currently, he's big on the confusion. Spot nose puzzles are amazing. Leopard, I've got some leopard het puzzle stuff going on as well, and fire. And I'm sure he's got other crazy stuff he's not going to even mention. But those are a
Probably.
few of the incomplete dominance he's working. Now, I was surprised because he said that he's excited about the puzzle clown. And I know if you talk with people around the industry, a lot of people are saying that's not even a project worth pursuing. And I'm on Will's RCR's Patreon, and I may have missed it. He may have shared his puzzle clown that he's super excited about, but I know he did just hatch one that he believes will, that many believe are gonna change people's minds about the puzzle clown. But the very first one that was shown was from someone in Japan, and it looked cool. Didn't look
Hmm.
crazy amazing like people would think a puzzle clown would be. And there's kind of a divide on whether that's a project worth pursuing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the answer. Like, how many puzzle clowns have been made in Europe and overseas and here in America? Like a handful, a couple handfuls. Like the ones that we've seen, anyways, advertised. Like they haven't really wowed people, but that's just the beginning. Like Red Stripe didn't really wow most people either. And a red stripe clown, right, it's all right. It's interesting. It's a little different, but it's doesn't wow me. You mix things in certain ways, and genes have an sometimes unforeseen reaction to each other. And then especially with clown, with such a dominant and really cool gene that it is, as far as like what it does to the pattern, like it's going to take a while to figure out what works. And I've heard the same thing about tri-stripe clowns. I don't have any tri-stripe in my collection, knowingly, and it seems like they're a little underwhelming as well, but that doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. Like that could change with the right combination. So it does appear, from my viewpoint, and the opinion that I'm forming so far on it, is that, yeah, maybe it's not a direction that I'm gonna go, and maybe I'll be really surprised when I see something cool come from that. But I like that Will is just gonna see it through and just keep working with it. Like that's what you got to do. Just full steam ahead and find out what works.
Yeah, I was glad to hear him mention puzzle because again, puzzle's big in my projects. Okay, let's take a look at his number 4. Of course, he's got to pull out crazy triple visuals,
This snake is so pretty, Mark.
the DG clown pied. Yeah. Now I think number 4 and number 3 you could kind of tie them together because they are triple visuals, and I'm sure he's eventually going to go for that quad. But do you have a lot of pied in your collection?
I'm starting to add some. I got one that our cousin raised, which is just a regular piebald female, and she's really pretty. She's an amazing eater, and then I would say, what was it like? maybe the beginning of last year, I finally bought my first like visual pied, and that was a leopard pastel pied female that is possible mahogany. And I've shown her to different people, and some of them, knowing that the father had mahogany, like think that there's a pretty good shot that she's hiding it between those other scrambling genes. And she has this really just unique look to her. So, when I got out of the hobby before, I mentioned like in the past, like the last piebald I saw at a show in person and got to hold was like a juvenile. It was really, really nicely started, really pretty, and she was $4,500. And to me at that time, I was like, well, maybe eventually I'll get one, but that's a lot for for a snake. And it's so cool that they're available to people now. And some people are getting out of a lot of their pieds and selling their breeders and just not even thinking about pieds anymore because there's so many of them out there that maybe it loses a little bit of luster to some people. That it was more difficult to get and held good value, but you ask people or you just watch their reactions at a show or at a pet store and they look at a piebald, that's usually most times the snake that will grab your average person's attention. It's only the breeders of more advanced projects and genes that are getting a little bit bored with Pied. And Pied, as you know, can be a little bit limiting when you mix other genes in with it. They can be kind of hidden. We talked about that recently with like the Monsoon Pied. But yeah, I have I don't know, like maybe like 4 Pieds.
Yeah, I've pies were the ones that got me into it. And while I'm not hu- hugely excited about them, I do have hypo puzzles in my collection, and there's always going to be room in there for them for me. And definitely, I do want to do shows at some point, a lot, hopefully with you. And we got to have some pies on the table, right?
Yeah, I mean, if I was just getting back into the hobby now, and when I did a couple years ago, that it's almost been now, like, well, I would have loved my first snake to have been a pied, but I saw, an adult female bell, and that's my favorite type of ball python look, and so I went that route. But as I looked at people's pies and I found them attainable, but it just wasn't what I immediately gravitated for. I knew that I would get one later, and the price has come down and been more reasonable, and people have mixed all sorts of genes in with pied. And yeah, I expect to actually in the future have more pieds, start making pieds rather than like, oh, people are starting to sell them off, breeder females for like $400 to $600, like in that range. Like, I think that's a little bit silly, but everybody should work with what they want to work with, and I like the pieds that I have, and I have a few snakes that are het pied, and the snake that I just got from Adam is a het pied female maker, banana plus other stuff. And
Nice.
yeah, it's going to be really cool. Actually, really quick, let me show another snake, Mark.
Okay.
Because this snake
What a
ties
snake. Sure.
into our whole thing. You have one of these. Hold on.
What's up, Leviathan? Thank you for joining us today. So we're gonna get a bonus rad ass snake of the week here with Jason. Let's see what he pulls out. I was wondering if he's gonna share that Adam one he got, but maybe it'll be a different one. Let's see.
So this, I noticed you got one of these from Adam. I don't know, what was it, like a year and a half ago or something? And you're like, later on, you're like, "Hey, Adam, this snake is really pretty. What's going on with it? It's not a regular banana." And And so he made more of them after figuring out that some of the lines that he was crossing had hypo in them. And so we're making some snakes that were kind of throwing him off as far as like identifications and whatnot. And this year he made, I think, a few hypo bananas, and this is one of them. Look, you can see a little black flag. Oh, it's hiding now. There it is.
Oh,
He's got a
there's
couple. He's got a couple spots on him, which I didn't really anticipate, but he's very ghostly. I have two visual hypos in my collection, and they're pretty snakes. I really like them a lot, and I've always been a fan of hypo anything, hypo king snake, hypo mountain king snake, hypo Honduran, like hypo bull pythons. But I just thought that this would be a unique snake, and I joined Adam's Patreon at the top tier, and that is like a savings account. So I gave him some money, and then I had some set aside each month. And I knew before I even joined that this was the snake I was getting. So he's a female maker banana. And, for those that don't know, he came from a female banana ball python.
so banana hypo. Is there any het clown in there as well?
Het pied.
Het pied. Okay.
Het pied. So I have a banana pied and I have a banana het pied. And I have another snake that's coming soon from a fundraiser for someone online, and Green Dragon Brokers will be sending me another banana pied in the weeks ahead. But
Very
yeah,
cool.
he's pretty cool. Very very like ghostly, almost like in a way a super banana would be.
Right.
Yeah. So I thought
Thanks
I'd
for
share my
sharing.
thanks. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, let's move on to the next number 3 of Kinova's top 5 projects of 2024. Now, this one, of course, it's been the ambassador for Kinova, pretty much, the DGA Xanthic Clown. Now, we didn't really get into DG and Clown with number 4, but let's talk a little bit about that now. Xanthic DG is amazing, and to get Clown in there, it's just crazy. I know you started getting some DGs in your collection, right? Do you have
Yeah.
any?
Yeah, Aaron from Beast Morphs is in the chat. He's been checking out our shows, and he is among my favorite personalities on YouTube and on IG, and just being able, like, I can message him and get, get some of his time and try to be friendly with him, and he's got a really cool collection, and he has some different desert ghost stuffs and combos, and makes some really unique pairings. And he came up with a black pastel DG that's 50% het cryptic and is also specter. And I don't have any specter in my collection. I have very little yellow belly. I've only been adding it recently. And so I thought, oh, okay, this guy is just too cool looking. I've been wanting to get a snake from Aaron for a good while, and he had brought the prices down, as a lot of people were, and it just that snake was not meant to be on Morph Market as long as it was. It was too affordable and too good of a deal on such a healthy, pretty snake that I was like, I can't believe this hasn't sold. I have to work something out with him for it. And he was excited to sell him to me. And he's really cool. He's really cool. And that is my only DG snake. But as far as Desert Ghost and Xanthic, those genes are just meant to be together. I think, in my opinion, anyways, and everybody has their own on what art looks good and what visually looks good, colors, what's pleasing to the eye. Like in the world of ball pythons, with all the millions and millions of different combinations that we have, right, Mark? I think simply without knowing what they all are, that Desert Ghost Xanthic Clown is the prettiest overall snake that has been made so far. That's my opinion. Like this snake, when it was first shown, I was like, well, it's like so cool. It does all the things that you want, like anarthristic or exanthic genes to do when they make like a gray and silver and black snake, but they don't always keep that perfectly. Sometimes yellows or browns can, even though they're supposed to be eliminated, sometimes kind of show up later in the aging process. And when you add Desert Ghost to Xanthic to any of the lines that's been done so far, it just cleans everything up and keeps that snake. I mean, look at that snake. That snake
Beautiful.
is an adult. He is breeding these snakes now, and they still look amazing. Like for a species, right, Mark? For a species that has been known to end up getting drab later. They don't all, like, not even all normal ball pythons, like, are ugly as adults, like, but they do get a bit dingy, and some are prettier than others. But that snake is so cool looking as an adult that that's what we've all been striving for in this field, is to mix genes so that we can create snakes that live for 20, 30, 40 years even. There's one in the St. Louis Zoo that's still alive. That was the longest lived ball
I know which one.
python when I got out of the hobby, Mark. Still alive. And you want that snake that you have this commitment for and you're going to keep and you're going to name and you're going to enjoy to stay, ideally really pretty the whole time. And that's what I think that Justin has found.
100% agree. I think I don't need to add to that. Let's move on to number two, which I found a huge surprise, and that is zebra.
Hmm.
What do you think? Any thoughts on zebra before we get into this, real quick?
Yeah, zebra, that's like a horse, right? Pretty much. Different pattern.
And
um yeah, like there's all this like hype about it before it was even hardly available. We're seeing like these 10, $15,000 snakes. And I'm like, what is zebra? It doesn't look black and white. It doesn't have tiger stripes exactly, but it does cool enough things as people have been making more of them to keep being a sought after gene. I'm a tiny bit surprised, honestly, that it's held a lot of allure and value still, but it's definitely something that I would like to have if it fit into my other projects. Like I've seen some really cool looking zebra snakes that people have. There's not a ton of them out there. Um, but all the people that have really big, really nice collections, for the most part, have the ability to invest in zebra and want to see where it goes, are starting or have already done so and are working on that. My friend that I got the Het Monsoon girls from possible Het Monsoon girls from, he has zebra and just made hets. So he took some of that monsoon money and decided like it's almost like he's like a little bit of a step ahead, and I think he has good karma, and he's a really good guy. And he chose zebra as the next thing to have as a nice project to try to be ahead of the curve. And he got one male and all girls, like 6 or 7 girls from his recent pairing. So yeah, we'll see where zebra goes. I can't invest in it, Mark. Maybe we could get Steven from Leviathan Snakes to take some of that sunset money and get one and bring that into sunset. That would be cool. That's what I would do if I could. Um, but yeah, it's a neat gene. Now, Mark, is it Mackenzie? I don't know. I know that Bob Vu has some really pretty Mackenzie snakes do some similar things. Do I think so far with what the limited knowledge that I have on it and from the examples I've seen in pictures, like, do I think that they're same? No, not yet, but I wonder a little bit. And I think maybe Mackenzie is the poor man's zebra, even if they're not the same. Um, but it's unlikely that I'll be working with either anytime soon. What about you?
Okay,
What do you think?
let's hear what Justin says first, then I'll give my 2 cents here.
Yeah.
Okay, so Justin says it's the key to the top combos of the future. And with a person like Justin saying that, it's likely going to be true. He's working it into a Xanthic, DG, and Clown. And
Nice.
he's not the only one I've heard say this, but everyone who owns Zebra says pastel is a must with it.
Hmm.
Now, let me get into whether it's Mackenzie or not. I do have Mackenzie in my collection. I have a Mojave GHI Super Mackenzie, possible
Nice.
etchy. And in my video that I introduced it, I mistakenly credited Bob Vu with the first one to mention that they're the same, but it was actually Jessica Hare from the Holdback Rack. She corrected me on that. So, Jessica, you get credit for the first one being pointing out that Mackenzie, the
She's got
Super
an eye,
Mackenzie.
she's got an eye for snakes. So, I mean, that's what makes me wonder is there's some people that have a lot of experience and a good eye for genes that are speculating that, at least bringing it into question. And the snake you got's really pretty.
Yeah, and the reason I got it not only because it was super beautiful, but in the hopes that it is proven to be the same as zebra, because I'd rather spend $800 for it than 10 grand. But with genetic testing going on, at some point it is going to be proven whether they are the exact same thing or not. But if it's not the same thing, it does very similar things. And maybe as we see more combos being made from both sides, we could determine whether they're the same or not.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to our final one here. We're just about over. I'm sorry. It's Justin mentioned that it's a new frontier for him to work with and for everyone to work with. Okay, number one, Monsoon. Now, when he brought up Monsoon at number one, I totally was not expecting it. And honestly, I thought he was going to go somewhere with Sunset and Leviathan's here. I thought Sunset would have at least made the top five. I wonder if that's saying something about Sunset. Sunset is such a polarizing morph. You either love it or you hear people calling it turds, and I think that's totally unfair to the project. Before we get into Monsoon, what do you think about Sunset?
I love Sunset. I was lucky enough to have one fall in my lap essentially as I was searching for hets and possible hets. And I love him. Like he's so cool. He's a pastel sunset, and some people would say they don't prefer pastel in it. And I kind of had that opinion too, but that's the one that I was able to get. And I actually kind of like pastel in him. And as time's gone by, and he's just a cool snake. It's nice, even though the value has naturally come down and adjusted a little bit on such a hyped project. Um, I really like Sunset, and he's essentially like my second most valuable snake, I would say. And being ready to breed, like he's going to be very useful for me. And I like the Sunset gene. Now, not every gene is created, equal with the different examples of it. There's some lines of pastel that I don't like absolutely love, or some of what comes out of that is like not not as pretty to me. And then there's other ones that are really pretty, like the lemon line of pastel. And quite a few of my snakes have pastel in them, and I like it. I like pastel. I'm not opposed to it. Just like I'm not too opposed to sunset. And I think over time, when you have such an interesting pattern changing morph, like just like for instance, clown. right? Clowns, when the first time I saw a picture of a clown in a book, I was just like, wow, what a cool ball python. It was like in the Barker's book, and I hadn't seen one in person. And clowns are awesome. And I think they're so awesome because of all the different things you can do in combination with them, and where they've taken the hobbies projects and different paths, and clown will be around a long time. And we need other things. We need other vehicles to create cool snakes. And I think, like we're talking about on this list, a lot of these snakes are very powerful in how they look. They're almost like overbearing. Monsoon, and Sunset, and Puzzle, and to some extent like Zebra, and some of these things that are mentioned, like, yeah, they can they can do really strong and striking looking things. And so if Sunset is a vehicle for that, then it just, to me, it makes perfect sense. It's not like a unicolor snake like a rubber boa is compared to a rosy boa. Like, there's pattern there, there's color there, they have hues of orange and different stuff, and some look better than others. But you just got to give it time. And that time doesn't mean like 12 to 24 months. That time means like a decade and a half. We're going to see, I believe, and I speculate pretty confidently that in like 10 years, some of the coolest looking and wildest looking ball pythons will, a lot of them will have sunset in them. I feel.
I agree.
And, you know,
I love sunset. Anytime you got pattern and color changing, that's a winning combo. And there's just so much to be seen with that. Now, let's get into what Justin said about Monsoon. Again, it surprised me because Monsoon is so dominating that what can we do with it? Of course, Justin has a really good eye on things. Let's see what he thinks. So there's a possibility that you will be hatching the Desert Ghost Monsoon this year. Now, that the regular Monsoon, I love it, but sometimes I could see that the pattern, especially with the raindrops of the Monsoon, they could be really small and difficult to get that contrast with. But if you get Desert Ghost into that, and you distinguish between the blacks and the yellows, it'll just make it pop even more.
yeah, probably.
And of course, he's got a Xanthic Desert Ghost Monsoon. That's going to be insane. If he ever does well, he is going to make it eventually, but that's going to be crazy. He says it's not a dead end. Let's see what else can we do with the pattern, because G Stripe was once thought to be a dead end, but then Clown brought that out. We'll see what Monsoon does. And there's a lot to still be done with it, and the best is yet to come. I've got double hit Monsoon pieds. You've got double hit Monsoon pieds, hopefully.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah. And I'm bullish on the Monsoon project. Final thoughts on Monsoon?
Yeah, I just think that re-entering the hobby and seeing all this new stuff and being like, wow, what is this gene? Wow, what is that? Wow. Like, there's so much to take in and learn about. That Monsoon was just one that was just so intense. Seeing that moray clown overseas, I was like, wow.
That thing's beautiful.
Like, that is like an awesome snake. It's a no-brainer that Monsoon should be put in clown. Now, not everyone like immediately feels that way, but just look at that snake. That snake is so awesome. It's among some of the better looking ball pythons overall that I think have been made in recent years. And Monsoon should do that as well. I mean, they're the same genes, pretty obvious, and sometimes things pop up in different continents. And I like Monsoon. I think it's a little bit like in that realm of Sunset of being so overbearing and maybe gets a bit drab later, like a more expensive pinstripe. You know, it needs to be played with a bit. But for some reason, Mark, when I look at the Sunset project and when I look at the Monsoon project, I look at them similarly as being drastically different looking color and pattern mutations in ball pythons. And I absolutely want to work with them, you know, to the extent that I immediately can to get involved. You know, I can't pay all the big numbers that some investors have, but I've taken my shots, I've taken my chances, and I have some stuff to work with that I got to be patient with, and I just think they're fun and exciting. And if they're not for everybody, that's fine. There's like a color palette for everybody's choosing. Like if you want to make campfires or you want to make desert ghost stuff or you know you want to work with you know xanthics and go that direction, like there's a path for everybody, and I say work with what you like. And I think that in the future when I finally hatch a sunset, and someday I'll hatch a monsoon, I'll be so excited because I think monsoons are very striking little hatchlings. As long as we've talked about that they don't have pastel in them.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
thank you. No, thank you. That's one gene you want to keep pastel out of. But I just think they're awesome. I think that there's lots of directions to go, and um, I think it's super exciting.
I think it's on par with the pied as far as making people's necks turn who aren't familiar with ball pythons. If they see a monsoon, it's just gonna like, what the heck is that snake? It's it's crazy beautiful.
Yeah.
Hey, we've had another awesome show, Jason. Thank you so much for your insight onto Kinova's top 5 projects for 2024. Any
Yeah.
last words for our audience here?
No, not really, other than thanks everyone for tuning in again. I appreciate it. I used my new mic. I didn't use that last week. I fell just short, and I found a way to make the whole setup work. And so I don't know, did I sound the same?
Great. I'll sound better next week because I do have a mic that I will be using next week.
Yeah,
So, audience, thank you so much.
mhm.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Jason, you're the best.
Thank you. It was good hanging with you, and I will see you next week.
See you guys.
Night, everybody.